Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Foundations. Bryant Rayner stood at the window of his modest apartment, watching raindrops chase each other down the glass. Once the owner of a thriving construction company and a beautiful suburban home, he now lived in a two-bedroom walk-up that smelled perpetually of the Chinese restaurant downstairs. His calloused hands, still bearing the marks of someone who'd worked his way up from nothing, clenched into fists. 3 months had passed since Melody Rayner had filed for divorce. 3 months of sleeping on a pull-out couch, so his children, Liam, 7, and Aubrey, 5, could have the only bedroom. 3 months of Melody's lawyer insisting that Bryant was an unfit father because he couldn't provide the lifestyle they deserved. The irony cut deep. Bryant had built that lifestyle brick by brick over 15 years, only to have it torn away through a perfect storm of betrayal. "Dad," Liam's voice pulled Bryant from his thoughts. "Are we going to be late for school again?" Bryant turned to his son, forcing a smile. "Not today, champion. Get your sister. We're leaving in 5. As the children gathered their backpacks, Bryant slipped the worn photo from his wallet, the 4 of them at Liam's 5th birthday, before everything imploded. Before he discovered that Melody had been sleeping with Levi Preston, his business partner of 10 years. Bryant had met Melody waitressing at a diner near his first construction site. He was 22, working 18-hour days to get his fledgling business off the ground. She was 20, putting herself through business school. They'd fallen hard and fast, marrying within a year. For 13 years, they'd been the perfect team, Bryant handling the building, Melody the books. When Levi came on board as a partner, bringing connections to high-end clients, Bryant thought they were unstoppable. Until 6 months ago, when a fire destroyed their warehouse and equipment worth millions. Insurance denied the claim, citing irregularities. Investigations pointed to arson, though nothing was proven. With contracts unfulfilled and lawsuits mounting, Bryant's company collapsed within weeks. Just as bankruptcy loomed, Melody filed for divorce. "Ready, Dad," Aubrey called, her blonde pigtails bouncing as she ran to him. Kissing the top of her head, Bryant pushed away the darkness. His children were all that mattered now. As he drove them to Melody's sprawling new home, purchased somehow despite their financial ruin, Bryant spotted Levi's Porsche in the driveway. The sight of it parked where his truck once stood made bile rise in his throat. "Mom's friend is here again," Liam muttered, his young face hardening in a way that broke Bryant's heart. "Remember what we talked about," Bryant said quietly. "Be respectful, even when it's hard." What he didn't say. Watch everything. Remember everything. Tell me everything. Because Bryant Rayner wasn't just a father fighting for custody. He was a man collecting evidence, piecing together the truth behind his downfall. And somewhere in that house lay answers. Answers his 7-year-old son had just become his unwitting spy to uncover. Chapter 2, Revelations. 3 weeks of custodial visits had yielded little. Bryant sat at his kitchen table, scribbling notes while his lawyer, Diana Cruz, reviewed financial documents. "They're hiding something," Bryant insisted. "The timeline doesn't add up." 3 weeks before the fire, Melody transferred $50,000 to a personal account I never knew existed. Diana sighed. "Suspicious, yes. Proof of criminal activity, no. Without concrete evidence linking Melody or Levi to the arson." "I know my wife," Bryant interrupted. "She calculated every move since college." This wasn't impulsive. Diana leaned forward. "Bryant, the custody hearing is in 2 weeks. Judge Moretti has a reputation for traditional values. If we can't prove Melody's living situation is harmful to the children, she's living with my ex-business partner while still legally married to me. That's not harmful. In today's courts?" "Barely raises an eyebrow," Diana replied. "We need more than moral indignation. Without financial stability on your side." Bryant's phone rang, Melody's number. Answering on speaker, he kept his voice neutral. "Liam's running a fever," Melody said without preamble. "I have an important dinner with Levi's investors. Can you take them tonight?" Bryant caught Diana's eye, who nodded vigorously. "I'll be there in 20 minutes," he replied, then hung up. "Perfect opportunity," Diana said. "The children will be more talkative when they're away from her influence." Brian already had his keys. "Text me if you find anything else in those statements." When Brian arrived, Melody barely acknowledged him, rushing past in a cocktail dress that probably cost a month of his rent. Levi stood in the background, watching Bryant with barely concealed contempt. "They've both eaten," Melody said, slipping on diamond earrings Bryant had never seen before. "Liam's medicine is in his backpack. I'll pick them up after school tomorrow." "I'll take them to school," Brian offered. Melody pursed her lips. "Fine, but don't be late again. It reflects poorly on me, I know," Bryant finished. "Your lawyer has made that abundantly clear." Later that night, with Aubrey asleep and Liam drowsy from medicine, Bryant sat on the edge of his son's bed. "How are things at Mom's house, buddy?" he asked casually, smoothing Liam's hair. Liam yawned. "Okay, I guess. She and Mr. Preston argue sometimes when they think we're asleep." "About what?" "Money stuff. And someone named Russo. Mom said he's getting impatient." Bryant kept his expression neutral despite his racing pulse. Vincent Russo was a developer with rumored mob connections, someone Levi had courted as a client before Bryant vetoed the partnership. "Anything else?" Liam hesitated. "Mom has a special safe in her closet. I saw her put papers in it yesterday. She said if I ever told anyone about it, I'd never see you again." Bryant's blood ran cold. "Did you see what the papers were?" Liam shook his head, eyes drooping. "No, but she types a code to open it. 2-5-8-4. Bryant kissed his son's forehead. "You're a good kid, Liam. Get some sleep now." After Liam drifted off, Bryant called Diana. "I need you to find everything you can on Vincent Russo," he said quietly. "And I think I know where to find her smoking gun." Chapter 3. Infiltration. The weekend custody arrangement gave Bryant 16 hours to execute his plan. He dropped the children at his parents' farm outside the city, then met with a former employee who now worked security. "Standard biometrics safe," Mason said, examining the photos Bryant had taken during a bathroom break at Melody's house. "If you have the code, you're halfway there. But these newer models often have a secondary fingerprint scan. Can it be bypassed?" Mason hesitated. "Technically, yes, but we're talking felony breaking and entering." Bryant's expression darkened. "They already took everything else. What's left to lose?" Late that night, Bryant parked 3 blocks from Melody's house and approached through the wooded area behind the property. Levi's Porsche was gone, at a charity gala, according to Melody's social media. The house was dark except for the porch light. Using the key he'd secretly duplicated from Liam's backpack, Bryant entered through the side door. The alarm panel blinked red. Armed, Bryant punched in the code that had been their anniversary date, holding his breath. The light turned green. Some things never change, he thought grimly. Moving silently through the house, Bryant found the master bedroom, still furnished with pieces he'd handcrafted for their 10th anniversary. The walk-in closet was bigger than his current bedroom, Melody's designer clothes organized meticulously. The safe was hidden behind a panel of shoes. Bryant entered 2-5-8-4, his heart pounding. The digital display flashed green, then prompted for a fingerprint. Bryant pulled out a plastic bag containing a water glass Melody had used during their last custody exchange. Mason had lifted the print and created a silicone replica. Bryant pressed it against the scanner. Access granted. Inside were financial documents, property deeds, and a manila envelope labeled contingency. Bryant photographed everything methodically, his hands steady despite the adrenaline. The last document made his blood run cold, a handwritten agreement between Melody and Levi dated 8 months ago, outlining a plan to eliminate Bryant from the equation and secure company assets before liquidation. Attached was a life insurance policy on Bryant that Melody had taken out without his knowledge. Most damning was a USB drive. Bryant plugged it into his phone with an adapter, finding audio recordings of Melody and Levi discussing the warehouse fire in explicit detail, including their arrangement with an arsonist. "We'll be set once the insurance pays out," Melody's voice said. "If they investigate too deeply, everything points to Bryant cutting corners. And if he figs it out, Levi asked. He won't, Melody replied. But if he does, well, that's what the policy is for. Accidents happen in construction all the time. Bryant's hands trembled as he copied the files. They hadn't just planned to destroy his business. They considered eliminating him permanently. As he carefully replaced everything and resealed the safe, Bryant heard a car in the driveway. Moving swiftly, he exited through the basement window he'd unlocked earlier, disappearing into the darkness as the front door opened. In his car, Bryant called Diana. "I've got everything," he said, voice ice cold. "All of it. And it's worse than we thought." "The hearing is in 4 days," Diana replied. "Tell me you didn't break any laws obtaining this evidence." Bryant stared at the house that was once his home, now illuminated by security lights. "Let's just say Melody made copies of some very incriminating documents," he answered carefully. "And my son found them." Chapter 4. Courtroom Revelation. Judge Evelyn Moretti's courtroom fell silent as Wesley Harmon, Melody's silver-tongued lawyer, delivered his closing argument. "Your Honor, the facts speak for themselves," Harmon said, gesturing toward Bryant. "Mr. Rayner currently resides in a 2-bedroom apartment in an undesirable neighborhood. He works irregular hours at a construction site and relies on his elderly parents for childcare. Meanwhile, Mrs. Rayner provides a spacious home in an excellent school district with financial stability and consistent routines." Bryant kept his expression neutral, feeling the weight of Liam and Aubrey's future hanging in the balance. Diana Cruz sat beside him, radiating quiet confidence despite Harmon's devastating portrait. Furthermore, Harmon continued, "Mr. Rayner's financial collapse raises serious questions about his judgment. The children deserve better than a father who can barely keep a roof over their heads." Judge Moretti's hawkish gaze moved from Harmon to Bryant. "Mr. Rayner, do you have anything to add before I deliberate?" Bryant started to rise, but Diana placed a restraining hand on his arm. "Your Honor," Diana said, standing instead, "we've submitted evidence detailing the circumstances of Mr. Rayner's financial situation. As outlined in our brief, there are serious questions about the warehouse fire that destroyed his business, questions that Mrs. Rayner and her companion, Mr. Preston, have yet to address satisfactorily." Melody shifted uncomfortably while Levi glared from the gallery. Judge Moretti shuffled through papers. "I've reviewed your allegations, Ms. Cruz. Without criminal charges, they remain speculative and largely irrelevant to this custody determination." "Then perhaps more direct evidence would be pertinent," Diana suggested. "We'd like to call a witness." Harmon scoffed. "Your Honor, we weren't notified of additional witnesses. This is highly irregular." "Who is this witness, Ms. Cruz?" Judge Moretti asked. "Liam Rayner, Your Honor. The minor child whose custody is at issue." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Judge Moretti frowned. "This is unusual, Ms. Cruz. Children's testimony is typically taken in chambers." "I understand, Your Honor. However, given the nature of the information, we believe—" "Absolutely not," Melody interrupted, rising from her seat. "I won't allow my son to be manipulated into—" "Mrs. Rayner," the judge cut in sharply, "you'll have your say through counsel." As the adults argued, a small figure stood in the spectators section where Bryant's parents sat with the children. Liam walked determinedly to the gate separating the gallery from the court floor. "I want to talk," the 7-year-old announced, his voice silencing the bickering lawyers. "I found something important." Judge Moretti's stern expression softened slightly. "Young man, this isn't how court procedures work." "But it's about the papers in Mom's secret safe," Liam persisted. "The ones that say she and Mr. Preston started the fire to hurt Dad's company." The courtroom erupted. Melody went pale, while Levi half rose from his seat before his lawyer yanked him back down. "Your Honor," Harmon shouted over the commotion, "this is clearly rehearsed testimony. Mr. Rayner has obviously coached the child." Judge Moretti banged her gavel. "Order. Everyone sit down." She fixed Melody with a penetrating stare. "Mrs. Rayner, do you have a safe in your home?" Melody's composure cracked. "Of course I do, but that's not. And would your son have knowledge of this safe?" "He must have been snooping," Melody snapped. "Children imagine things." "I didn't imagine the recordings," Liam said clearly. I copied them after I saw Mom hide the little computer stick. Bryant hadn't anticipated this. He'd carefully prepared Liam to mention the letter he'd found, the agreement between Melody and Levi, but not the recordings. Somehow, his son had conducted his own intelligence operation. Judge Moretti turned to Liam. Young man, do you have these recordings with you? Liam nodded solemnly, reaching into his pocket and producing a small USB drive, different from the one Bryant had discovered. Grandpa helped me copy it from Mom's computer after I took the other one from her safe. I put that one back like in the spy movies. The courtroom fell silent as the bailiff took the drive and handed it to the judge. Melody's face had drained of all color. Your Honor, Harmon interjected desperately. Whatever that device contains, it was obtained illegally by a minor child. It cannot possibly be admissible. Mr. Harmon, Judge Moretti said coolly, I'll determine admissibility after reviewing the contents. Court is in recess for 1 hour. Mrs. Rayner and Mr. Preston will remain in the building. She fixed them with a steely gaze. I strongly suggest you contact criminal defense attorneys. As the courtroom emptied, Bryant knelt before his son. Liam, why didn't you tell me about the second drive? He asked quietly. The boy's eyes were serious beyond his years. Because Mom said people who knew too much got hurt. I wanted us both to be safe. In that moment, Bryant realized his son hadn't just been a pawn in this game. He'd been a player, watching and calculating just like his father. Chapter 5, Consequences. 1 hour stretched into 3 as Judge Moretti reviewed the evidence in chambers with representatives from the district attorney's office. Bryant waited with the children and his parents in a conference room, while Melody and Levi were sequestered elsewhere with their respective attorneys. Diana entered, her expression cautiously triumphant. They're still reviewing everything, but the recordings are damning, she reported. Melody and Levi discussing not just the arson, but plans to frame you if investigations got too close. There's also evidence they've been systematically draining company accounts for over a year. Bryant absorbed this with cold satisfaction. And custody? Judge Moretti has separated that determination from the criminal matters. But given the circumstances, Diana's smile widened. She's indicated a strong presumption in your favor. When court reconvened, the atmosphere was electric. 2 plainclothes detectives now sat behind the prosecutor's table. Judge Moretti's face was granite as she called the court to order. Based on evidence that has come to light during these proceedings, I am issuing emergency temporary orders, she announced. Full physical and legal custody of Liam and Aubrey Rayner is granted to their father, Bryant Rayner, effective immediately. Bryant exhaled slowly, feeling a weight lift from his chest. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mrs. Rayner is to have no contact with the minor children pending criminal investigation into matters revealed today. She turned to the detectives. The court has provided copies of all evidence to law enforcement. You may proceed. The detectives rose. Melody Rayner and Levi Preston, you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and arson, one announced. What followed was chaos. Melody screaming that Bryant had set her up, Levi attempting to flee before being tackled by bailiffs, and Harmon desperately trying to negotiate surrender terms. Through it all, Bryant remained seated, one arm around each child, his expression revealing nothing of the savage satisfaction coursing through him. Later, as they prepared to leave the courthouse, Diana pulled Bryant aside. Most men would feel vindicated now, she observed. You don't seem particularly celebratory. Bryant watched his children gathering their things with his parents. This isn't victory, he said quietly. It's just the beginning. Diana studied him. Bryant, you've got custody, and they're facing serious prison time. What more do you want? Bryant's eyes were flat and cold. They planned to kill me, Diana. They destroyed everything I spent 15 years building. They traumatized my children. He buttoned his jacket with deliberate precision. This legal proceeding? It's just round 1. Bryant, Diana warned, whatever you're planning, don't. You've won. Don't throw it away on revenge. Bryant smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I'm a law-abiding citizen who's been grievously wronged. I'm simply going to ensure justice is fully served. As they left the courthouse, reporters surged forward, shouting questions. Bryant guided his family past them without comment, but paused at the bottom of the steps when one reporter thrust a microphone in his face. "Mr. Rayner, how do you feel about your ex-wife's arrest?" Bryant looked directly into the camera. "Justice is a patient process," he said calmly. "And so am I." Chapter 6. Preparation. 3 months after the courtroom revelation, life had achieved a new normal. Bryant had moved the children to a comfortable 3-bedroom house in a safe neighborhood, using money from the insurance settlement finally paid after the arson investigation cleared him of wrongdoing. His construction business was slowly rebuilding, focusing on smaller projects with reliable clients who had stood by him. The children were in therapy, processing their mother's betrayal and subsequent disappearance from their lives. Melody and Levi had both posted bail, Melody using her parents' retirement savings as collateral, Levi through connections that raised questions among investigators. Their criminal trial was still months away. Bryant sat at his kitchen table late one night, reviewing documents Diana had forwarded from the prosecutor's office. The case against Melody and Levi was strong, but not airtight. Both had hired aggressive defense attorneys who were attempting to paint Bryant as the mastermind who framed them after his business failed. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Shipping warehouse on Fletcher St. Midnight. Information about Preston you'll want. Come alone." Bryant stared at the message. It could be a trap, yet his instincts told him otherwise. He called his parents to check on the sleeping children, then drove to the industrial district. The warehouse was dark except for a single light near the loading dock. Bryant approached cautiously, one hand on the legal handgun he now carried. "That won't be necessary," came a voice from the shadows. A man stepped into the light, tall, immaculately dressed, with silver temples and cold eyes. "Vincent Russo. We have mutual acquaintances." Bryant didn't lower his guard. The developer Levi was courting, the one with certain connections. Russo smiled thinly. "I prefer to think of myself as a businessman with diverse interests. Your former partner approached me about financing some projects after your company's unfortunate accident. Why contact me now?" Professional courtesy. Preston has been making promises using assets he doesn't control. He's assured certain investors that once his legal troubles are resolved, he'll have access to your insurance settlement and business contracts. Bryant's jaw tightened. He'll be disappointed. Yes, well, disappointment can be dangerous in my circles. Russo handed Bryant a flash drive. "Consider this insurance." Preston's been recording his conversations, including with his attorney. Apparently, he doesn't fully trust his paramour either. Bryant pocketed the drive. "Why give me this? Let's just say I prefer dealing with men who honor their commitments. Preston is a liability. You are always the one with actual talent." Russo turned to leave. "Oh, and Bryant? They're planning to offer testimony against each other. Neither is particularly loyal under pressure." After Russo departed, Bryant reviewed the files at home. The recordings confirmed his suspicions. Melody and Levi were already plotting against each other, each planning to claim the other was the mastermind. More valuable were their current schemes. Levi had hidden assets offshore that prosecutors hadn't discovered, while Melody had been contacting relatives about fleeing to a non-extradition country if things went south. Bryant created copies of everything before calling Diana. "I need you to pass something to the prosecutor anonymously," he explained. "And then I need your help with something else, something not strictly legal." "Bryant, they were going to kill me, Diana, and now they're planning to run. The system won't deliver true justice." Silence stretched between them before Diana sighed. "What do you need?" "Access to their electronic accounts, emails, financials, everything. I know you have contacts who can manage that. And if I get that for you..." Bryant's voice was eerily calm. "Then I ensure they destroy each other more thoroughly than the justice system ever could." The next morning, Bryant met with a man Diana had reluctantly connected him with, a cybersecurity expert named Otis who operated in gray areas of the law. "Everything leaves a digital footprint," Otis explained, setting up untraceable equipment in Bryant's garage. "With account credentials, I can create a comprehensive mirror of their digital lives without detection." "How long?" "Give me a week. Then you'll have everything: emails, texts, financial records, cloud storage. Otis glanced up. Just remember, knowledge is power, but what you do with it determines whether you're the hero or villain of your story. Bryant's expression remained unchanged. In my experience, life isn't that black and white. Over the following weeks, Bryant immersed himself in his enemies' digital lives. He discovered Levi's network of shady investors, evidence of previous fraudulent schemes, and, most critically, his plan to double-cross Melody by planting evidence suggesting she had acted alone. Melody's communications revealed her own betrayal in progress. Secret meetings with prosecutors offering testimony against Levi in exchange for leniency, and plans to sue Bryant for defamation once criminal charges were reduced. Neither suspected they were being watched. Neither realized their weapons were being turned against them. Bryant created a secure email account and contacted each of their attorneys separately, anonymously providing evidence of their clients' planned betrayals. He sent select recordings to Levi's shadier investors, revealing plans to implicate them if necessary. To the prosecutors, he anonymously delivered proof of hidden assets and escape plans. "You're playing a dangerous game," Diana warned during a late-night call. "These people have already proven they're willing to commit arson. What happens when they realize someone's systematically dismantling their defenses?" "They'll suspect each other," Bryant replied. "That's the beauty of it. By the time they realize the truth, it'll be too late." As summer turned to fall, Bryant's plan unfolded with meticulous precision. The growing distrust between Melody and Levi became evident in their increasingly hostile court filings. Their legal teams began withdrawing, citing irreconcilable differences with clients. Bryant watched it all with detached satisfaction, compartmentalizing this dark work from his daytime role as devoted father rebuilding a normal life for his children. The final phase of his plan was ready. All that remained was to spring the trap that would ensure neither Melody nor Levi ever threatened his family again. Chapter 7: Entrapment. The exclusive Riverside restaurant was nearly empty at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, exactly as Bryant had planned. Using one of Melody's email accounts, he'd arranged a meeting with Levi, masquerading as her willing to discuss a unified defense strategy. Through Levi's account, he'd sent a similar invitation to Melody. Neither would know the other was coming until it was too late. Bryant sat in a corner booth with clear sight lines to both entrances, nursing a whiskey and checking his watch. The waitstaff had been generously tipped to ensure privacy and specific seating arrangements. Melody arrived first, her designer outfit unable to hide the stress of recent months. She'd lost weight, and her once perfect makeup couldn't conceal the shadows beneath her eyes. She scanned the restaurant anxiously before the hostess directed her to a booth one over from Bryant's, separated by a privacy partition. 15 minutes later, Levi entered, his trademark confidence notably diminished. His Italian suit hung looser on his frame, and his eyes darted nervously around the space before he was seated at a table positioned where neither he nor Melody could see each other from their respective locations. Bryant activated the recording devices he'd planted earlier that morning, disguised as ordinary personal items left at each table. Then he sent identical text messages from burner phones to both targets, running 10 minutes late. "Order a drink. We need to discuss the offshore accounts." Through carefully placed compact mirrors, Bryant watched the color drain from both their faces. Neither left, the mention of offshore accounts too critical to ignore. Another text to Melody. "I know you're planning to testify against me. Smart move, but dangerous. I still have the original plan in your handwriting." To Levi, "The DA has the recordings. You're the sacrificial lamb unless we coordinate our stories. Russo is getting impatient about his investment." Bryant watched their growing panic with cold satisfaction. After sending a final message to each, "Meet me in the private dining room and back," he slipped out a service entrance. From his car parked across the street, Bryant used a directional microphone to monitor what happened next. Melody and Levi, both expecting to meet their accomplice, instead encountered each other in the private dining room. "What the hell are you doing here?" Levi's voice crackled through Bryant's receiver. "Me? You texted me to come." Melody shot back. I didn't text you anything. You contacted me about offshore accounts. Their confusion quickly escalated to accusations, then to threats, as each believed the other had set them up. If you're wearing a wire for the DA, I swear to God, Levi growled. Me? You're the one threatening to implicate me. I saw your emails to your attorney. What emails? I never. Levi stopped suddenly. Wait, someone's playing us against each other. A moment of silence fell before Melody whispered, Bryant. Bryant smiled as he started his car. By now, they would be discovering the final element of his setup. An envelope he'd left in a private dining room containing copies of their most incriminating communications, along with a note. The originals are with people who will release them if anything happens to me or my children. Your move. The next day, Bryant received separate calls from Melody's and Levi's new attorneys requesting settlement discussions. They're willing to plead guilty to reduced charges, Diana reported after the meetings. No trial. No risk of you or Liam having to testify. Melody will relinquish all parental rights in exchange for a more lenient sentence. Levi will make full financial restitution. And if I refuse? Bryant asked, though he already knew the answer. Then they go to trial separately, each planning to blame the other. It would be messy, public, and traumatic for the children. Diana studied him. This is a win, Bryant. Take it. Bryant nodded slowly. Set up the paperwork. But add one condition. Neither can ever contact me or my children again. Any violation means immediate release of everything we have. Diana began to speak, then stopped herself. I never asked where all that additional evidence came from. Bryant's smile didn't reach his eyes. Better that way, isn't it? Chapter 8. Collapse. The plea agreements were signed on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Melody received 5 years with possibility of parole after 3 in exchange for relinquishing all parental rights and providing testimony about Levi's wider financial crimes. Levi got 8 years with no possibility of early release, plus full financial restitution to Bryant's business and additional penalties for the investors he defrauded. Bryant attended neither hearing, sending Diana in his place. He spent the day with Liam and Aubrey at the construction site of what would become their new home, a fresh start built by his own hands. Is Mom really going to jail? Aubrey asked as they watched concrete being poured for the foundation. Bryant knelt to her level. Yes, Princess. For a few years. Because she did bad things with Mr. Preston? That's right. Liam, more aware of the complexities, asked the harder question. Will we ever see her again? Bryant looked his son directly in the eyes. That will be your choice when you're older. For now, we're focusing on our new life. That evening, as the children slept, Bryant received a call from an unknown number. He almost declined it before curiosity won out. Bryant Rayner. You've ruined me. Melody's voice, hollow with defeat. Are you satisfied now? Bryant's grip tightened on the phone. You're violating the no-contact order. What difference does it make? You've taken everything. My freedom, my children, my future. You took those things from yourself, Bryant replied coldly. The moment you decided I was disposable. It wasn't supposed to go this far, she whispered. The fire was Levi's idea. Things just escalated, including the life insurance policy, the one where you benefited if I had an accident. Silence stretched between them. I never would have gone through with that part, Melody finally said. Forgive me if I don't believe you. Bryant's voice remained emotionless. You have nothing I want, Melody. Not explanations, not apologies. Nothing. They're my children too, she pleaded. You can't just erase me from their lives. You did that yourself. Goodbye, Melody. Bryant hung up and immediately called Diana. Melody just contacted me directly. Violation of the agreement. Diana sighed. I'll file the motion in the morning. This means the remaining charges can be reinstated. Good, Bryant said simply. The next week brought news that Melody's sentence had been extended to 10 years with no possibility of early parole. Meanwhile, Levi's offshore accounts were frozen after anonymous tips to financial authorities in 3 countries. Vincent Russo appeared at Bryant's construction site unannounced, watching silently as crews erected steel beams for a new commercial project. Impressive recovery, Russo commented when Bryant approached him. Word is you're expanding faster than before. Bryant shrugged. Quality work speaks for itself. Indeed it does, as does the systematic destruction of one's enemies. Russo smiled thinly. Preston's associates are most distressed about their vanished investments. Financial crimes have consequences, Bryant replied neutrally. So, I've observed. Russo handed him a business card. When you're ready for larger projects, call me. I appreciate a man who can be thorough. That night, Bryant burned the card and deleted the final copies of evidence from his secure drives. The originals remained with his attorney, insurance against any future threats. Within a year, Bryant's construction company had not only recovered, but expanded, building a reputation for both quality and integrity. His children were thriving in their new school, the trauma of their mother's betrayal fading under Bryant's steady guidance. Only in private moments did Bryant allow himself to reflect on the calculated destruction he'd engineered, not with regret, but with the cold satisfaction of a man who had protected what was his and punished those who had tried to take it. Chapter 9. Aftermath. 5 years passed. Bryant's construction company had become one of the largest in the state, known for innovative designs and ethical business practices. The children had adjusted well. Liam, now 12, and showing his father's aptitude for building things, Aubrey, 10, and blossoming into a confident young girl with her father's resilience. Bryant had dated occasionally, but kept relationships casual, unwilling to introduce potential disruption into their hard-won stability. His focus remained on his children and his business, the betrayal a closed chapter he rarely discussed. Until the letter arrived. The prison stationery was unmistakable, as was the handwriting. Bryant nearly discarded it unopened, but something, perhaps curiosity, perhaps a desire for final closure, made him break the seal. Bryant, I'm being released next month. 5 years, just as promised. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, what we lost. The children must be so grown now. Liam would be 12, and Aubrey 10. I know I have no right to ask, but I'd like to see them. Just once. To apologize. To explain that what happened wasn't their fault. They deserve that much, don't they? I'm not the same person who betrayed you. Prison changes you, strips away pretenses. I understand if you hate me forever, but please don't punish them by erasing half their history. Melody. Bryant read the letter twice before calling Diana, now a judge herself. She's really getting out next month? He asked without preamble. Good afternoon to you too, Diana replied dryly. Yes. Her release is scheduled. The parole board decided she's been a model prisoner, teaching GED classes, counseling other inmates. Very rehabilitative narrative. And the no-contact order, still in effect regarding you. But regarding the children, Diana paused. Bryant, they're older now. The court might consider allowing supervised visitation if she petitions for it. Bryant's jaw tightened. They haven't asked about her in over 3 years. That doesn't mean they don't think about her. Children are complicated. Diana's voice softened. What are you going to do? That evening, Bryant sat his children down in their comfortable living room. I received a letter from your mother today, he said, watching their faces carefully. She's being released from prison next month. Liam's expression hardened immediately, a mirror of Bryant's own mask. Aubrey looked confused, then curious. She'd like to see you, Bryant continued. That decision is entirely yours. I won't force either of you, and I won't think less of you whatever you decide. I don't want to see her, Liam said immediately. She tried to hurt you. She left us. Bryant nodded, acknowledging his son's loyalty without reinforcing it. Aubrey, the 10-year-old twisted her hands in her lap. I don't really remember her much anymore, she admitted. Just bits and pieces. Would it be bad if I wanted to see what she's like now? No, sweetheart. Not bad at all. Bryant kept his voice neutral despite the conflicting emotions surging through him. The next day, Bryant arranged for a supervised visitation center to manage any potential meeting. He would not be present, could not trust himself to be in the same room as Melody without his carefully constructed control slipping. A week before Melody's release, Bryant received another call, this one from the prison chaplain. Mr. Rayner, I'm afraid I have difficult news. Melody collapsed in the yard yesterday. By the time medical help arrived, she was gone. The preliminary finding is an aneurysm, though the medical examiner is still investigating. Bryant listened in silence, feeling nothing but a hollow emptiness where rage had burned for so long. She asked me to give you a message if anything happened to her, the chaplain continued. She said, tell Bryant he won. Completely. And that I'm sorry. That night, after sharing the news with the children, Aubrey crying, Liam stoic, Bryant sat alone on his deck, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. 5 years of methodical retribution had consumed him, transformed him. He had rebuilt his business, his reputation, his children's security. He had engineered the complete destruction of those who betrayed him. And yet, with Melody's death, he felt no triumph, no satisfaction, only the weight of years spent nurturing vengeance when he could have been healing. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Heard about Melody. My condolences. That offshore account she never knew about just cleared regulatory scrutiny. Lunch sometime? Levi. Bryant stared at the message, rage rekindling. Levi had clearly served his reduced sentence and somehow managed to preserve some of his hidden assets. Even now, he was reaching out, assuming their shared history with Melody might forge some twisted bond. For a moment, Bryant considered igniting the cycle again, investigating, accumulating evidence, orchestrating another downfall. Instead, he deleted the message and blocked the number. Some enemies weren't worth the cost of destroying them. Some victories weren't worth the price of winning them. Bryant Rayner had protected what mattered: his children, his business, his future. The rest could burn to ashes, just like the warehouse that had started it all. He would never forgive. He would never forget. But finally, after 5 long years, he would move forward. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. To all our viewers across America, Europe, Asia, and beyond, thank you for being part of our worldwide community. We hope you enjoy today's story, so let's dive in. Chapter 1. The Betrayal. The California sun blazed down on the UCLA Medical School campus, matching the fire in Damon Westlake's chest as he navigated through the crowds of graduates and their families. His hands trembled slightly as he held an envelope containing a certified check, his final payment toward the education of his fiancée, Vanessa Kincaid. Damon had met Vanessa 6 years ago during her undergraduate studies. He was 28, a self-made real estate developer who had built his fortune from nothing after growing up in foster care. She was 22, brilliant and ambitious, with dreams of becoming a neurosurgeon. Their connection had been immediate and intense. When Vanessa got accepted to medical school but couldn't secure enough financial aid, Damon hadn't hesitated. I believe in you, he'd told her, promising to support her dreams. He'd liquidated investments, sold properties, and redirected his business profits to fund her education. $275,000 for tuition and living expenses, plus $8,000 each semester for books and supplies. Today was supposed to be their shared triumph. The graduation party he'd spent weeks planning at the Hotel Bel Air, inviting 200 of their closest friends and Vanessa's extended family. The celebration cost him another $85,000, but Damon considered it an investment in their future together. As he approached the grand ballroom, he spotted Vanessa in her elegant navy dress, her dark hair swept up, showcasing the diamond necklace he'd given her that morning. She was surrounded by a group of fellow graduates, including Dr. Maximilian Thornton, the hospital's young neurosurgery attending physician who'd been her mentor during clinical rotations. Vanessa's eyes met Damon's across the room, and what he saw there made his blood run cold. Not recognition or love, but something closer to annoyance. She whispered something to Max, who nodded and slipped away toward the bar. Damon approached, smiling. "There's my brilliant doctor," he said, leaning in to kiss her cheek. Vanessa stepped back, her face a perfect mask of confusion. She motioned subtly to a security guard nearby. "Excuse me," she said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. "I don't know him. Please make him leave my private event." The security guard, a hulking man with a buzz cut, stepped between them. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Damon stood frozen, the envelope still in his hand. "Vanessa, what are you doing? This is our engagement party as much as your graduation." Her eyes narrowed. "I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never been engaged." From behind him, a shrill laugh cut through the shocked silence. Vanessa's mother, Patricia, sauntered over, champagne flute in hand. "I guess the wedding's off, huh?" she said, her voice dripping with amusement. Always thought she could do better than a self-made nobody. Damon looked around at the faces watching, some confused, others embarrassed, a few clearly in on the joke. His gaze landed on Max, who now stood at Vanessa's side, his hand possessively at the small of her back. In that moment, everything crystallized for Damon. The late nights at the hospital, the weekends she couldn't see him because of study groups, the way she'd been pulling away emotionally for months while still allowing him to pay for everything. Damon straightened his shoulders and pocketed the envelope. He didn't raise his voice or make a scene. He simply smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Congratulations on your graduation, Dr. Kincaid," he said calmly. Then he turned and walked out of the ballroom, ignoring the whispers that followed him. In the privacy of his car, Damon finally allowed himself to feel the full weight of the betrayal. 6 years of his life, nearly $500,000, and most painfully, the future he believed in, all gone in an instant of public humiliation. As he drove away from the hotel, his mind cleared with startling rapidity. The pain transformed into something colder, more focused. By the time he reached his Malibu home, the seed of a plan had already taken root in his mind. Vanessa Kincaid and everyone who'd helped orchestrate his humiliation would learn a painful lesson. Damon Westlake might forgive many things, but betrayal was not among them. Chapter 2. The Assessment. 3 days after the graduation party, Damon sat in his home office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The wall-to-wall windows that had once inspired him now felt like a glass cage. He hadn't left the house since the incident, ignoring calls from confused friends and business associates who'd been invited to the party but told upon arrival that it had been canceled. On his desk lay a leather-bound notebook, its pages now filled with meticulous notes. Damon believed in thoroughness. It was how he built his business empire despite having no family connections or Ivy League education. He'd spent the first day allowing himself to feel everything: the humiliation, the rage, the heartbreak. The second day, he'd gathered intelligence, calling in favors from contacts throughout Los Angeles. Today, he was formulating his response. The intercom buzzed, and his assistant's voice came through. "Mr. Westlake, Nolan Preston is here to see you." "Send him up," Damon replied. Nolan was the closest thing Damon had a family. They'd met in the same foster home at ages 12 and 13, forming a bond that had survived decades. Where Damon had channeled his difficult childhood into building legitimate businesses, Nolan had taken a different path. After a stint in the military, he'd worked in private security with skills that occasionally blurred ethical lines. "You look like hell," Nolan said as he entered, his tall frame filling the doorway. Damon gestured to the chair across from him. "I've been better." Nolan sat down, his expression serious. "I heard about what happened. Some of it, anyway. Want to fill me in?" For the next hour, Damon explained everything. The relationship with Vanessa, the financial support, the very public rejection. "She played you," Nolan said bluntly when Damon finished. "Not just played. In that doctor planned this. They waited until she had her degree, until she had everything she needed from me." Damon pushed a folder across the desk. "This is what my investigator found in 2 days. They've been seeing each other for at least a year. And look at this." He pointed to a bank statement. "She's been siphoning money from our joint account, small amounts at first, then larger sums as graduation approached. Nearly $150,000 in total, on top of everything I knowingly gave her." Nolan whistled. "That's cold. What about legal options?" "I've spoken to my attorney. Without a written agreement about the education expenses, it's considered a gift." The joint account funds are trickier, but pursuing it would drag this into the public eye. I'd rather handle this privately. What do you have in mind? Nolan asked, recognizing the look in his friend's eyes. Damon turned his laptop to show a series of property listings. I've been tracking Dr. Thornton's career. He's being courted by Philadelphia General to head their neurosurgery department. It's a prestigious position, one he's planning to use to bring Vanessa in as a resident, bypassing the normal match process. And I've just purchased the building where they've signed a lease for their new apartment. Damon's smile was razor sharp. That's just the beginning. Damon, Nolan said carefully, whatever you're planning. I'm not going to break any laws, Damon interrupted. Not directly, but I'm going to make sure they lose everything that matters to them, just as they've done to me. You'll need help. That's why you're here. I also need information on Patricia Kincaid, Vanessa's mother. She knew about this all along, encouraged it even. She's always resented me for not coming from old money like her ex-husband. Nolan nodded. What about your business? You've built something significant. Are you willing to risk it? Damon looked out at the ocean, his expression hardening. I built my first company from nothing. I can do it again if necessary. But that won't be required. This isn't about destroying myself to hurt them. It's about being smarter, more patient, and more ruthless than they expect. The Damon I know has always been calculated, Nolan observed. Don't let emotion cloud your judgment. Emotion isn't clouding my judgment, Damon replied, his voice eerily calm. It's clarifying it. For 6 years, I lived with blinders on, believing in something that wasn't real. Those blinders are gone now. He stood and walked to the window. I'm not acting out of anger, Nolan. This is about justice. They took years of my life, hundreds of thousands of my dollars, and my dignity. Now I'm going to take everything from them. Not in a burst of revenge, but systematically, piece by piece. Nolan recognized the determination in his friend's voice. This wasn't a passing rage. This was Damon at his most focused. Where do we start? Nolan asked. Damon turned, his face impassive. We start by understanding our targets completely. Their hopes, their dreams, their weaknesses. Then we use that knowledge to dismantle their world, one foundation stone at a time. Chapter 3. The Blueprint. 1 month after the graduation party, Damon's Malibu home had transformed into a war room. The dining room walls were covered with information about his targets. Vanessa Kincaid, Maximilian Thornton, and Patricia Kincaid. Damon stood before the display with Nolan and 2 other individuals. Riley Blackburn, a brilliant young woman who'd worked as Damon's financial analyst before starting her own consulting firm, and Phoenix Montgomery, a former tech security specialist with an unsettling ability to access information that was supposedly secure. Thank you all for coming, Damon said. What I'm about to share requires absolute discretion. After explaining the situation, he turned to the profiles on the wall. These are our primary targets. Our goal is not just revenge, but justice. They took from me methodically over years. I intend to respond in kind. Phoenix raised an eyebrow. Just to be clear, you're not asking us to do anything illegal, right? Nothing that would land any of us in prison, Damon confirmed. But I'm asking you to help me orchestrate a series of perfectly legal maneuvers that will, when combined, dismantle the lives they've planned for themselves. Riley studied the financial documents pinned to the wall. It's impressive how deliberately she extracted resources from you. This wasn't impulsive, it was calculated. Exactly, Damon agreed. Vanessa spent years positioning herself to take maximum advantage of my support before discarding me at the precise moment when she no longer needed me. He pointed to Dr. Thornton's section of the wall. Maximilian Thornton comes from a wealthy Philadelphia family with deep connections in the medical world. His father sits on the board of Philadelphia General. That's how he secured not only his own position, but a guaranteed residency spot for Vanessa outside the standard match process. Nepotism at its finest, Nolan commented. Indeed. And Patricia Kincaid? Damon continued, pointing to the 3rd section. She's been financially dependent on her ex-husband's family wealth, which is dwindling due to her extravagant spending habits. She pushed Vanessa to link herself to money. First mine, now the Thorntons. Phoenix tapped his tablet. I managed to access some of their communications. They've been planning this for at least 18 months. Waiting until after graduation was strategic, ensuring Vanessa had her credentials before burning bridges. Damon nodded grimly. I've outlined a three-phase approach. He moved to a whiteboard with a flowchart. Phase 1, acquisition and positioning. I've already purchased the Philadelphia building where they've leased an apartment. I've also acquired a significant stake in several businesses connected to the Thornton family through shell companies. Phase 2, disruption. Once they're settled in Philadelphia, we begin systematically dismantling their professional and personal plans through entirely legal means. Riley skimmed the financial projections. This is comprehensive and expensive. I'm prepared to invest up to $2 million in this project, Damon said without hesitation. Consider it the cost of justice. In Phase 3, Nolan asked. Revelation, Damon replied. When they're at their most vulnerable, they'll learn exactly who orchestrated their downfall and why. Phoenix looked concerned. That seems risky, letting them know it was you. The entire point is for them to know, Damon explained. Not just to suffer losses, but to understand they're facing the consequences of their actions. What's our timeline? Riley asked. They moved to Philadelphia in 6 weeks. We have until then to complete our preparations. Damon distributed folders to each person. These contain your specific assignments and compensation details. I'm offering each of you $250,000 for 6 months of work, with a $250,000 bonus upon successful completion. Phoenix whistled. $500,000 each? You really are serious. Completely, Damon confirmed. But I need absolute commitment. Once we begin, there's no backing out. The room fell silent as they considered the magnitude of what Damon was proposing. Finally, Nolan spoke. I'm in. Not for the money, but because what they did was wrong. Riley nodded. The financial challenge alone is intriguing. I'm in as well. Phoenix hesitated longest. This goes beyond my usual contracts, but the compensation is persuasive. Count me in with one condition. If anything veers into truly illegal territory, I walk. Fair enough, Damon agreed. I don't want anyone crossing lines they're uncomfortable with. That said, we'll be operating in gray areas at times. He moved to the window, looking out at the ocean. I spent years building a life around a lie. Now I'm going to rebuild around a purpose. They taught me a valuable lesson about trust and betrayal. It's time I return the favor. As his 3 associates reviewed their assignments, Damon felt a cold clarity he hadn't experienced before. The pain hadn't disappeared, but it had transformed into fuel for a precision-engineered response. Vanessa and her accomplices had seen him as a stepping stone to be used and discarded. They were about to discover just how dangerous it was to underestimate Damon Westlake. Chapter 4, The Groundwork. Philadelphia in late August was sweltering, the humidity wrapping around Damon like a wet blanket as he exited his rental car. He straightened his tailored suit and approached the imposing limestone building on Rittenhouse Square that now belonged to him. Under normal circumstances, he would have delegated this meeting to a property manager, but these were not normal circumstances. He wanted to personally welcome the building's newest tenants. In the 6 weeks since forming his team, Damon had executed the first phase of his plan with surgical precision. Beyond purchasing the building, he'd established a new identity as Devin Morrison, a real estate investor with impeccable credentials crafted by Phoenix. This persona would allow him to move freely in Philadelphia without raising suspicions. The building's manager, Louisa Winters, greeted him in the marble lobby. She had no idea of his true identity or motivations, believing him to be simply a demanding new owner. Mr. Morrison, welcome to Philadelphia, she said, extending her hand. The penthouse is ready for your inspection, and I've scheduled meetings with all the contractors as requested. Excellent, Damon replied. And the new tenants? The ones taking the 4th floor corner unit. Dr. and Dr. Thornton are moving in tomorrow. Everything has been prepared according to their lease specifications. Damon suppressed a flinch at hearing Vanessa referred to with Maximilian's surname, though they weren't yet married. I'd like to review their unit today. It's important that our medical professionals have an impeccable living experience. As they toured the apartment, Damon absorbed every detail. The views of Rittenhouse Square, the renovated kitchen with marble countertops, the master suite where Vanessa would sleep with her new partner. He felt nothing. No jealousy, no pain, just cold assessment. The security upgrades I requested? He asked. All installed, Louisa confirmed. New cameras in all common areas, the advanced key card system, and the special modifications to this unit's systems. Those special modifications included subtle surveillance equipment Phoenix had designed, nothing that would record private moments, but enough to monitor comings and goings, visitors, and conversations in common areas. Not technically legal, but undetectable. Perfect, Damon said. I'll need daily reports on all building operations for the first month. After concluding the inspection, Damon met Nolan at a cafe 3 blocks away. Everything's set, Nolan asked over coffee. Damon nodded. They have no idea their new home is owned by the man they betrayed. What about your end? Phase 1 is complete, Nolan confirmed. I've secured a position with the hospital's security contractor. Starting next week, I'll have access to Philadelphia General. Riley has established financial footholds in the companies we identified, and Phoenix has their digital lives mapped out. And Patricia Kincaid, arriving next week to help them settle in. She's booked at the Rittenhouse Hotel, where, coincidentally, I've arranged for you to cross paths with her. Damon's expression remained neutral. She won't recognize me. It's been years since we met, and I've changed my appearance significantly. He ran a hand over his now bearded face and shorter, differently styled hair. What about your businesses in California? Nolan asked, operating smoothly under management. I've told everyone I'm exploring East Coast expansion opportunities, which is technically true. Damon sipped his coffee. How are our ancillary targets? The hospital board members are mapped out, including their relationships with the Thornton family. We've identified the weak links and potential pressure points. Damon nodded. Tomorrow, Vanessa and Maximilian begin their new life in Philadelphia. They're expecting a smooth transition to the next phase of their perfect plan. Instead, they're walking into the first chamber of a labyrinth I've designed specifically for them. Are you absolutely certain about this? Nolan asked quietly. Once we move to phase 2, there's no going back. Damon's eyes hardened. I gave Vanessa everything. My trust, my support, my future. She took it all and publicly discarded me when I was no longer useful. This isn't about heartbreak anymore, Nolan. It's about consequences. Later that evening, Damon stood in his penthouse overlooking the city. His phone buzzed with a text from Phoenix. Target vehicles on the move. ETA, Philadelphia. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. He moved to a laptop set up on the dining table and opened a series of files labeled Phase 2, Disruption. Each contained meticulously detailed plans targeting different aspects of Vanessa and Maximilian's lives. Career, finances, reputation, relationships. Each would be systematically compromised, not through crude attacks, but through sophisticated maneuvers that would appear as unfortunate circumstances or the results of their own actions. Damon closed the laptop and poured himself a glass of scotch. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Chapter 5, The Excavation. Patricia Kincaid frowned at her reflection in the Rittenhouse Hotel's elevator mirror, adjusting her designer scarf. At 62, she prided herself on maintaining the appearance of a woman a decade younger, thanks to rigorous cosmetic interventions and a wardrobe budget that consistently outpaced her alimony payments. As the elevator doors opened to the hotel's upscale restaurant, she mentally prepared for her dinner with Vanessa and Maximilian. After a week of helping them settle into their new apartment, she was exhausted but satisfied. Her daughter had successfully traded up from the self-made real estate developer to the heir of a Philadelphia medical dynasty, exactly as Patricia had coached her to do. The maitre d' led her to a private corner table where a distinguished-looking man sat alone, focused on his tablet. Patricia barely glanced at him, scanning the restaurant for her daughter. Mrs. Kincaid, the maitre d' said, your party has been delayed. Dr. Thornton called to say they'll be at least an hour late due to a hospital emergency. He asked if you'd like to wait at the bar, where your drinks will be complimentary. Patricia sighed dramatically. Very well. As she turned to leave, the man at the adjacent table looked up. Excuse me, he said, his voice carrying a smooth, cultured tone. I couldn't help overhearing. If you'd like company while you wait, I'd be honored to buy you a drink. I'm dining alone tonight. Patricia assessed him quickly. Expensive suit, Patek Philippe watch, confident bearing. He appeared to be in his early 50s, with salt and pepper hair and an impressive physique for his age. That's very kind, she replied, extending her hand. Patricia Kincaid. Devin Morrison, Damon said, using his alias. Real estate investment. 20 minutes later, they were deep in conversation at the bar, Patricia increasingly animated as she worked on her second martini. So you're just visiting Philadelphia? Devin asked, helping my daughter and her fiancé settle in. Patricia explained proudly. He's joining Philadelphia General as head of neurosurgery, and she's starting her residency there. Impressive, Devin commented. Medical families tend to have strong connections in this city. The Thorntons certainly do, Patricia agreed, lowering her voice conspiratorially. Though between us, navigating those old money families can be exhausting. All traditions and obligations. Devin nodded sympathetically. I know exactly what you mean. My late wife's family was similar, Boston banking dynasty. The politics were relentless. This fabricated background instantly established a connection. Patricia leaned closer. Exactly. Maximilian is wonderful, but his parents are so rigid. Everything must reflect perfectly on the family. I worry sometimes about the pressure on Vanessa. She's fortunate to have a mother who understands these dynamics, Devin commented. Many would be overwhelmed. Patricia preened at the compliment. Well, I've always tried to guide her toward the right opportunities. Her previous relationship was a stepping stone, necessary at the time, but not suitable for the long term. Damon kept his expression neutral despite the surge of cold anger. Oh, how so? He had money, but not connections, Patricia explained dismissively. New money, self-made. Useful while she needed medical school funding, but no family background to speak of. Literally raised in foster care, if you can imagine. How did that relationship end? Devin asked, signaling the bartender for another round. Patricia laughed lightly, rather dramatically, at her graduation party that he paid for. Vanessa had already secured her future with Maximilian by then, so it was time to make a clean break. She sounded like a strategic thinker, Devin observed, his tone carefully balanced between admiration and neutral interest. I raised her to be, Patricia said proudly. In this world, women need to use every advantage. She secured her education, made the right connections, and positioned herself perfectly. I couldn't be prouder. Devin checked his watch. Your daughter and her fiancé should be arriving soon. Would you allow me to host all of you for dinner? I'd love to hear more about the Philadelphia medical community. I'm considering some healthcare real estate investments. Patricia's eyes lit up at the potential connection. That would be lovely. I'm sure Maximilian would have valuable insights for you. When Vanessa and Maximilian arrived 40 minutes later, they found Patricia chatting animatedly with a distinguished older gentleman. Damon had prepared meticulously for this moment, studying photographs to ensure his disguise would hold even at close range. The beard, different hairstyle, colored contacts, and subtle facial prosthetics that altered his cheekbones and jawline made him unrecognizable to someone who hadn't seen him in months. There they are, Patricia exclaimed. Darlings, this is Devin Morrison, a fascinating real estate investor I've been chatting with. He's kindly offered to join us for dinner. Maximilian extended his hand. Dr. Maximilian Thornton. This is my fiancée, Dr. Vanessa Kincaid. A pleasure, Devin said smoothly, shaking their hands. If Vanessa felt any spark of recognition, she showed no sign of it. Her eyes passed over him with the polite disinterest she might show any stranger. Over dinner, Devin expertly extracted information while appearing to simply engage in business networking. He learned about Maximilian's challenges with certain board members, Vanessa's concerns about fitting into the hospital's culture, and their upcoming engagement party at the Thornton family estate. By the time they parted ways, exchanging business cards and promises to connect again, Damon had gathered invaluable intelligence while planting the seeds for Phase 2. Patricia had his contact information and was already planning to introduce him to other useful people in their social circle. Back in his penthouse, Damon briefed his team via secure video conference. The infiltration was successful, he reported. They suspect nothing. Riley looked impressed. The disguise worked that well? Even up close. Completely, Damon confirmed. I could have told Vanessa exactly who I was, and she still wouldn't have seen past the facade. People see what they expect to see. And the intelligence? Phoenix asked. Better than anticipated. We now have details on specific hospital board dynamics, social events they're planning to attend, and personal concerns they're not sharing publicly. Nolan, speaking from his new apartment near the hospital, added, I start at the hospital security office tomorrow. Between your access through Patricia and mine through the facility, we'll have comprehensive coverage. Good, Damon said. It's time to move to the next stage. Phoenix, implement the first digital disruptors. Riley, begin the financial maneuvers we discussed. And Nolan, start mapping the hospital's informal power structures. After the call ended, Damon reviewed the dossiers on his targets, adding new information from the evening's conversation. The more he learned about how deliberately they had used him, the more his resolve hardened. Vanessa hadn't just broken his heart. She and her mother had cold-bloodedly planned his exploitation from the beginning. Maximilian had knowingly participated in the deception, helping Vanessa maintain the facade while establishing their relationship behind Damon's back. Soon, they would begin experiencing the first coincidental difficulties in their perfectly planned new life. Nothing dramatic, just enough to create confusion and stress. By the time they realized these events formed a pattern, it would be too late to stop what was coming. Chapter 6. The Foundation Cracks. 2 months into Phase 2, Damon sat in his Philadelphia penthouse, reviewing progress reports from his team. Outside, autumn had transformed Rittenhouse Square into a canvas of red and gold, but Damon had little interest in the seasonal beauty. His focus remained entirely on the systematic dismantling of his targets' lives. Progress update, he commanded as his 3 associates gathered around the conference table. Riley began. Financial disruption is proceeding as planned. Through our minority stakeholder positions in Thornton Family Investments, I've successfully initiated 3 separate SEC compliance reviews. Nothing illegal. Just enough regulatory attention to create significant distraction for Maximilian's father. The board position Dr. Thornton was promised. Damon asked. Delayed indefinitely due to administrative concerns. Riley confirmed with a tight smile. His family's influence at the hospital is experiencing unexpected resistance. I've also arranged for 3 major donors to delay their pledges to his department, citing budgetary reviews. Excellent. Damon turned to Phoenix. Digital sphere? The tech specialist looked up from his tablet. The selective communication disruptions are working beautifully. Important emails disappear or arrive late. Calendar invitations fail to sync properly. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to make them appear disorganized and unreliable. And the social engineering? Damon pressed. We've successfully introduced subtle conflicts in their professional relationships, Phoenix confirmed. Dr. Reynolds now believes Maximilian took credit for his research, while Dr. Westwood thinks Vanessa spoke negatively about her diagnostic skills. Neither actually happened, Nolan added, but the manufactured evidence was convincing enough. Damon nodded, satisfied. And the living situation? Nolan suppressed a smile. The building issues have been effective. Intermittent problems with temperature control, water pressure, and elevator function. All perfectly timed to maximum inconvenience, yet all within code when inspectors check. Their apartments specifically? Experiencing the most random issues, Nolan confirmed. The building manager is apologetic but increasingly frustrated with their complaints, as no problems can be duplicated when maintenance arrives. Damon allowed himself a small smile. And Vanessa's residency performance? Struggling, Phoenix reported. The scheduling errors have caused her to miss 2 important procedures. Her evaluation metrics are being subtly altered. Not enough to trigger formal investigation, but enough to place her in the bottom quartile of her peer group. The psychological impact? Damon asked. Nolan consulted his notes. According to our surveillance, significant strain is showing. 3 major arguments in the past week alone. Maximilian is increasingly short-tempered as his promised resources fail to materialize. Vanessa is questioning whether moving to Philadelphia was a mistake. And Patricia, still completely charmed by Devin Morrison, Nolan reported. She's introduced you to 8 key social contacts, including 2 hospital board members. Your investment discussions have given you legitimate access to insider information about hospital operations. Damon nodded, satisfied with their progress. Initiate the next phase of social disruption. It's time to introduce more significant complications. The following evening, Damon, as Devin Morrison, attended a charity gala at the Philadelphia Art Museum. Patricia had ensured his invitation, eager to foster connections between her new friend and the city's elite. He spotted Vanessa and Maximilian across the grand hall, their body language tense despite their polished appearance. Maximilian kept checking his phone, his expression growing increasingly frustrated. Damon approached casually, champagne in hand. Dr. Thornton, Dr. Kincaid, wonderful to see you again. Vanessa forced a smile. Mr. Morrison, Mother mentioned you might be here. Philadelphia's medical community is remarkably interconnected, Devin commented. I've been having fascinating conversations about healthcare investment opportunities. Maximilian's phone buzzed again. He checked it, his jaw tightening. Excuse me, he muttered, stepping away to make a call. Everything all right? Devin asked Vanessa with well-practiced concern. She hesitated. Just hospital politics. Nothing important. Ah, politics, Devin nodded sympathetically. Often the most challenging aspect of any profession. Maximilian was promised certain support that seems to be delayed, Vanessa admitted, clearly frustrated. And my residency schedule has been chaotic. Not what we expected when we relocated. I'm sorry to hear that, Devin said. I know several board members. Perhaps I could make some introductions that might help clarify the situation. Vanessa's eyes lit up with hope. That would be incredibly helpful. Consider it done, Devin promised. In fact, Walter Blackburn is here tonight. He chairs the hospital's finance committee. Shall we speak with him now? The introduction was perfectly calculated. Damon had already cultivated a relationship with Blackburn, feeding him carefully crafted concerns about hospital management that aligned with the disruptions Riley had orchestrated. As Vanessa and Maximilian eagerly engaged with Blackburn, Damon observed the interaction with cold satisfaction. They were now unwittingly participating in their own undoing, pursuing solutions that would only deepen their problems. Later that week, Damon convened another team meeting. Phase 2 is accelerating effectively, he announced. Their professional and personal stress levels are escalating precisely as planned. Now we begin introducing more severe disruptions. Riley looked concerned. The financial maneuvers we've discussed for this stage come very close to market manipulation, but remain technically legal, Damon countered. We're simply leveraging information available to any astute investor. And a reputation management component? Phoenix asked. Proceed as planned, Damon instructed. Begin seeding the questions about Vanessa's qualifications and Maximilian's research ethics. Nothing directly accusatory, just enough to create doubt. Nolan cleared his throat. Damon, I need to report complication. Vanessa reached out to your former assistant in California yesterday. She's trying to contact you. The room fell silent. This was unexpected. Why? Damon asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Apparently, she's been denied a loan refinancing for her medical school debt. The lender flagged something in her financial history, something connected to the joint accounts you once shared. Damon's expression remained impassive, but his mind raced. This wasn't part of his plan, at least not yet. Did my assistant give her my contact information? No, Nolan confirmed. As instructed, she said you were traveling internationally and unreachable. Damon considered this development. This is actually useful. It increases her financial pressure while simultaneously reminding her of her dependency on me in the past. There's more, Nolan added hesitantly. We intercepted a call between Vanessa and her mother. Vanessa mentioned feeling like she's being punished for how she ended things with you. She's beginning to wonder if these coincidences are connected. A slow smile spread across Damon's face. Perfect. Let her wonder. Let her begin to question whether her current troubles are random or deserved. The psychological impact of uncertainty is far more powerful than any direct confrontation. Phoenix frowned. If she suspects you, couldn't that compromise the entire operation? Suspicion without proof only increases psychological stress, Damon explained. She betrayed someone who trusted her completely. Deep down, she knows she deserves consequences. That knowledge will eat at her, making her question everything and everyone around her. And if she starts investigating, Riley asked, she'll find nothing concrete, Damon assured them. Every action we've taken is either completely legal or impossible to trace. Let her chase ghosts. As his team continued their report, Damon felt a cold satisfaction. Phase 2 was working even better than anticipated. His targets were beginning to fracture under pressure, their carefully constructed new life developing cracks exactly where he had designed them to appear. Soon, they would be ready for Phase 3, Revelation. Chapter 7, The Collapse. December arrived in Philadelphia with bitter cold and the first heavy snow of the season. From his penthouse window, Damon watched as workers strung holiday lights across Rittenhouse Square. 5 months had passed since he'd begun implementing his plan, and the results had exceeded his expectations. The Thornton family's financial stability was showing visible cracks. Maximilian's promised position at the hospital had been downgraded twice, his department budget slashed by 40%. Vanessa was now on academic probation in her residency program due to a series of documentation errors that Phoenix had meticulously engineered. Most satisfyingly, their relationship was disintegrating under the strain. The surveillance in their apartment had captured increasingly bitter arguments, with Vanessa accusing Maximilian of misleading her about his influence at the hospital, and Maximilian suggesting that Vanessa's performance issues were reflecting poorly on his family name. Damon's team gathered for their weekly update, the atmosphere tense with anticipation. They had reached a critical juncture. Financial status? Damon asked Riley. They're underwater, she reported clinically. Maximilian's family has lost approximately 22% of their investment portfolio value due to our targeted maneuvers. The tax audit we triggered has frozen significant assets. Meanwhile, Vanessa's attempt to refinance her medical school debt has been rejected by 7 different lenders due to the inconsistencies we planted in her credit history. Professional standing. Damon turned to Phoenix. Maximilian is now viewed with suspicion by key hospital administrators. The research irregularities we suggested have prompted an internal review. Nothing will be proven, but the cloud of suspicion won't dissipate easily. Phoenix swiped through his tablet. Vanessa's reputation among her peers is equally compromised. The selective communication disruptions have made her appear unreliable and arrogant. Social status? Damon asked Nolan. In free fall, Nolan confirmed. They've been excluded from 3 major holiday events. The Thornton family is distancing themselves from Maximilian's poor judgment in his professional decisions. Patricia Kincaid has returned to California, apparently unwilling to be associated with their declining situation. Damon nodded, satisfied. In the apartment building, the final straw, Nolan reported with a grim smile. The notification of non-renewal was delivered yesterday, citing excessive complaints and disruption to other residents. They have 60 days to find new accommodations, in a market where we've ensured no comparable properties are available. Excellent, Damon said quietly. It's time for Phase 3. Riley looked concerned. Are you certain? Once we reveal your identity, there's no going back. That's precisely the point, Damon replied. They've experienced months of escalating consequences without understanding the source. Now, they'll learn exactly who orchestrated their downfall and why. Later that evening, Damon, still in his Devin Morrison disguise, invited Maximilian for drinks, an exclusive club, ostensibly to discuss potential investment in a medical technology startup. The desperate doctor had eagerly accepted, seeing this as a possible financial lifeline. The private room Damon had reserved offered spectacular views of the snow-covered city. Maximilian arrived 15 minutes late, looking haggard despite his expensive suit. "Devon, thank you for meeting," he said, shaking Damon's hand firmly. "These investment opportunities couldn't come at a better time." "Before we discuss business," Devon said smoothly, "I wonder if you might indulge my curiosity about something personal." Maximilian looked wary but nodded. "Of course. I understand Dr. Kincaid was previously engaged to someone else before you. A California real estate developer." Maximilian's expression tightened. "A brief relationship. Nothing serious." "Interesting," Devon mused. "I heard he funded her entire medical education. That seems rather significant." "Who told you that?" Maximilian asked sharply. "Patricia mentioned it," Devon replied calmly. She seemed quite amused by how it ended. "At a graduation party he paid for, I believe." Maximilian shifted uncomfortably. "That's all in the past. Vanessa made the right choice for her future." "Did she?" Devon asked, his voice changing subtly. "Because from where I sit, her future looks increasingly bleak." Maximilian froze, studying Devon's face more carefully. "What are you implying?" Damon reached up and removed his colored contact lenses, then slowly peeled away the prosthetics that had altered his facial structure. "I'm not implying anything, Dr. Thornton. I'm stating a fact. Vanessa didn't make the right choice. She made a catastrophic one." Recognition dawned in Maximilian's eyes, followed by confusion and then fear. "Westlake, Damon Westlake." "The very same," Damon confirmed, his voice now returned to its natural cadence. "The man who spent 6 years of his life and nearly $500,000 supporting Vanessa, only to be publicly humiliated and discarded." Maximilian stood abruptly. "Whatever game you're playing." "This is no game," Damon interrupted calmly. "This is justice. Every setback you've experienced in Philadelphia, every unexpected obstacle, every stroke of bad luck, all orchestrated by me." "That's impossible," Maximilian insisted, though his pallor suggested he was beginning to believe it. "Is it?" Damon opened a laptop on the table between them. "Your apartment building? I own it. The hospital board members who've cooled toward you? I've been whispering in their ears for months. The financial pressures on your family? Engineered by my team." He turned the screen toward Maximilian, showing a comprehensive timeline of their systematically dismantled life. "You're insane," Maximilian whispered. "No," Damon replied. "I'm methodical. You and Vanessa taught me an important lesson about betrayal. I'm simply ensuring you fully understand the curriculum." Maximilian lunged suddenly, grabbing Damon's lapels. "You've destroyed everything we've worked for." Damon didn't resist, his calm unshaken. "Security cameras are recording this, Dr. Thornton. Assaulting me would only add to your problems." Maximilian released him, stepping back. "What do you want? Money? I'll pay back whatever Vanessa took from you." "This was never about money," Damon said. "It's about consequences. You participated in a calculated deception that stole years of my life. Now I've taken something from you in return: your reputation, your career trajectory, your relationship. We're getting married next month," Maximilian said desperately. Damon smiled coldly. "No, you're not. Vanessa is currently meeting with my associate Riley, who is explaining everything to her, just as I'm explaining it to you. By tomorrow, your engagement will be another casualty of my plan." Maximilian collapsed back into his chair. "Why reveal yourself now? Why not just continue secretly ruining our lives?" "Because understanding is crucial to justice," Damon explained. "I want you to know exactly who did this to you and why. I want you to spend the rest of your career looking over your shoulder, wondering if your next setback is bad luck or my continued influence." He stood, straightening his suit. "Our business is concluded, Dr. Thornton. You're free to try rebuilding your life, though I wouldn't recommend Philadelphia as the location for that effort. Your reputation here is, shall we say, permanently compromised." As Damon walked to the door, Maximilian called after him. "This won't bring back those 6 years she took from you." Damon turned, his expression serene. "No, it won't. But watching you both suffer the consequences of your actions has been surprisingly satisfying compensation." Chapter 8. The confrontation. The Jefferson Hotel's presidential suite offered panoramic views of downtown Philadelphia, the city lights glimmering against the night sky. Damon stood at the window, hands clasped behind his back, waiting. 5 months of meticulous planning had led to this moment. Behind him, Nolan checked his watch. "She's 2 minutes late." "She'll come," Damon said with certainty. After what Riley told her, she has no choice. The suite's doorbell chimed precisely as he finished speaking. Nolan moved to answer it, his posture alert. Vanessa Kincaid stood in the hallway, her face pale with fury and fear. Gone was the confident doctor who had dismissed Damon so casually at her graduation party. In her place stood a woman whose carefully constructed world was collapsing around her. "Where is he?" she demanded, pushing past Nolan. Damon turned from the window, facing her directly for the first time since that devastating night in Los Angeles. "Hello, Vanessa." She faltered momentarily, seeing him without the Devin Morrison disguise. "You manipulative bastard," she finally managed. 6 months of lies? Pretending to be someone else? Infiltrating my life. Fascinating accusation coming from you, Damon replied coldly. "You spent 6 years pretending to love me while systematically extracting resources for your education. That was different." "Yes, it was," Damon agreed. "My deception lasted 6 months and cost you your reputation. Yours lasted 6 years and cost me my future." Vanessa paced the room, her composure cracking. "What you've done is insane. Buying our building? Manipulating hospital politics? Having your people monitor our private lives." "I prefer to think of it as proportional response," Damon countered. "You and your mother planned my exploitation for years. Maximilian knowingly participated in the deception. Did you really think there would be no consequences?" "So, this is revenge?" she demanded. "This is justice," Damon corrected, "delivered with the same calculating precision you used when planning my humiliation." Vanessa collapsed onto the sofa, her anger momentarily giving way to despair. "You've destroyed everything. My residency, Maximilian's position, our relationship." "I didn't destroy your relationship," Damon interrupted. "I merely subjected it to pressure. What broke, it was the weak foundation you built on betrayal and convenience." He moved to the bar and poured 2 glasses of scotch, offering one to her. Vanessa ignored it. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice smaller. "Are you going to continue ruining our lives?" "That depends entirely on you," Damon replied, sitting across from her. "My active involvement ends tonight, provided you and Maximilian accept certain conditions." "What conditions?" she asked warily. "First, you leave Philadelphia, separately. Your relationship is over as of tonight." Damon's tone was matter-of-fact. "Second, you repay what you stole from our joint accounts, $147,893 to be precise. I've already prepared the paperwork. And if I refuse, then Phase 4 begins tomorrow," Damon said simply. "What you've experienced so far has been carefully calibrated to allow recovery. Phase 4 would ensure neither you nor Maximilian works in medicine again." Vanessa stared at him. "You wouldn't. I've spent 6 months and nearly $2 million orchestrating this response," Damon reminded her. "Do you really want to test my resolve?" The room fell silent as Vanessa processed her options. Finally, she asked, "How did it come to this? We could have just broken up normally." "That opportunity existed for 6 years," Damon replied. "Instead, you chose to publicly humiliate me at an event I paid for, after taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from me. Your mother laughed in my face. You pretended not to know me in front of everyone we knew." For the first time, genuine remorse flickered across Vanessa's features. The public rejection was Mother's idea. She said a clean break would be more efficient. "Efficient," Damon repeated, the word like ice. "An interesting choice when describing the deliberate destruction of someone who loved you." Vanessa looked away. "I never meant for her to go that far." "But you didn't stop it," Damon observed. "You participated fully, just as Maximilian did, just as your mother did. Each of you made choices, and now each of you is facing the consequences of those choices." He removed a folder from the desk and placed it before her. "The repayment agreement, a non-disclosure agreement regarding everything that's happened, and my commitment to end all active measures against you, provided you comply. Vanessa opened the folder, scanning the documents inside. You've thought of everything. I learned from the best, Damon replied without humor. You taught me how calculating a person can be when properly motivated. After a moment of hesitation, Vanessa signed the papers. What about Maximilian? And my mother? Maximilian received similar terms an hour ago. He's already signed. Damon collected the folder. As for Patricia, her consequences have been tailored differently. The financial schemes she's been running through her charitable foundation have been anonymously reported to the relevant authorities. Vanessa's head snapped up. What schemes? The tax evasion your mother has been engaging in for years, Damon explained. She's been using charitable donations to fund her lifestyle, something I discovered while researching your family. That's not my fault, Vanessa protested. No, Damon agreed. But her raised you to believe that using people was acceptable. Her moral framework shaped yours. Her consequences are her own, just as yours are yours. He stood, indicating their meeting was concluding. Nolan will escort you out. Your residency program will receive your resignation letter tomorrow, citing personal reasons. You'll have 30 days to vacate your apartment and leave Philadelphia. Vanessa rose shakily. And that's it? After all this, you just walk away? I already walked away once. The night you pretended not to know me, Damon reminded her. This time, I'm ensuring you understand exactly why I'm walking away and what it cost to betray someone who trusted you completely. As she reached the door, Vanessa turned back. Did you ever really love me? Or was I always just a project to you? I loved you entirely, Damon answered, his voice finally betraying emotion. That's why your betrayal warranted this response. If you'd meant nothing to me, none of this would have happened. After she left, Nolan returned to find Damon staring out at the city again. It's done, then? Nolan asked. Phase 3 is complete, Damon confirmed. They've both signed the agreements. Do you think they'll honor them? They have no choice, Damon replied. The evidence we've gathered would destroy them professionally if released. Self-preservation will ensure their compliance. Nolan studied his friend carefully. Did it help? Seeing her broken like that? Damon considered the question. It wasn't about breaking her. It was about ensuring she understood the weight of her actions. That betrayal has consequences. And now we return to California, Damon said. Our work here is finished. Chapter 9. The Reconstruction. 1 year later. The Malibu sunset painted the Pacific Ocean in shades of gold and crimson as Damon stood on the deck of his rebuilt home. The original structure had been sold months ago, too filled with memories of Vanessa. This new house, further up the coast, represented his fresh start. Inside, Riley and Phoenix were engaged in a spirited debate about cryptocurrency regulation while Nolan manned the grill. The quarterly reunion of Damon's project team had become a tradition, though their professional relationships had evolved into genuine friendship. Damon's phone buzzed with a text from his new assistant. Real estate closing in San Diego successful. Final profit, $4.2 million. He smiled slightly. The past year had been remarkably productive professionally. Freed from the emotional drain of his relationship with Vanessa and energized by the successful execution of his justice project, Damon had channeled his focus into expanding his business empire. His net worth had nearly doubled. Good news? Nolan asked, joining him at the railing with 2 beers. Very, Damon confirmed, accepting the bottle. The San Diego development closed above projections. Not surprising. You're more focused than I've ever seen you. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Nolan spoke again. I saw Vanessa's name in the news yesterday. Damon raised an eyebrow, but showed no other reaction. Oh, she secured a residency position at a small hospital in Oregon. Starting over, it seems. Good for her, Damon said neutrally. No lingering desire to interfere? Nolan probed carefully. None, Damon assured him. Our business is concluded. What she does now is her own affair. And Maximilian? Last I heard, he'd taken a research position at a pharmaceutical company. Significantly below his previous trajectory, but a career nonetheless. Nolan nodded. And Patricia? sentenced to 18 months for tax evasion, currently serving at a minimum security facility. Damon's expression remained impassive. Actions have consequences. Any regrets? Nolan asked quietly. Damon considered the question seriously. Not about the Justice Project. They earned every consequence they received. My only regret is the 6 years I spent with someone who saw me as a resource rather than a partner. Riley joined them on the deck. Food's almost ready. Also, that developer from Vancouver called again. He's eager to partner on the medical office complex. Tell him I'll review his proposal next week, Damon replied. As Riley stepped away to make the call, Nolan observed, medical real estate. Interesting choice. It's a growth market, Damon said simply. My personal history doesn't change that fact. Speaking of personal matters, Nolan ventured. Audrey Bryant called. The gallery opening is next Friday. Damon nodded. I'm aware. I've confirmed my attendance. She seems interesting. She is, Damon agreed. Brilliant, accomplished, and refreshingly direct. No hidden agendas. Will you tell her about Vanessa? About what happened? Eventually, Damon said. If things progress. Transparency matters in relationships built on mutual respect. The conversation paused as Phoenix called them in for dinner. Seated around the table with these 3 people who had helped him execute justice, Damon felt a sense of peace that had eluded him since the night of Vanessa's graduation party. After dinner, as the others engaged in a board game, Damon stepped away to his office. On his desk sat a small wooden box. Inside was the engagement ring he'd once purchased for Vanessa, a 3-carat diamond in a platinum setting that had cost him $87,000. He'd kept it throughout the entire Justice Project, a tangible reminder of what had been taken from him. Now, its purpose fulfilled, he closed the box and placed it in a drawer. Tomorrow, he would have it appraised and sold, the proceeds donated to foster care programs in Los Angeles. The past was finally settled. Justice had been served. The betrayers had paid their price, and Damon had reclaimed not just his dignity, but his capacity for building a future unburdened by what had been stolen from him. As he rejoined his friends, Damon reflected that the greatest revenge wasn't in destroying those who had wronged him, but in rebuilding his life to be stronger and more fulfilling than before. The architect of vengeance had become the architect of his own reconstruction, steel reinforced this time, with foundations no betrayal could ever shake again. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.